Hello viewers, welcome to Chris Crime Diaries. This is your Chris Barker. April Owenby was born on December 24, 1978. April attended Elmore County High School and was a member of the band. She was a saxophonist and drummer. She was also an intelligent and well-liked adolescent. April met the love of her life, Michael Holton, in high school. Mike was also a musician, and the two became friends through music. They fell in love and married after graduating from high school. Mike worked in the fire department, and April was a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, Madison, Hayden, and Kyle. They were overprotective parents. They loved their children and worked hard to raise a happy and content family. Unfortunately, the good did not last long. April had only one rule in the house: no drugs. She had first-hand experience with her close relatives and didn't want her children to go through the same thing. April was enraged when she discovered Mike was using drugs. Mike was too far down the rabbit hole for the poor woman to help him. He lied about his relapses, causing significant financial hardship. He also mistreated her. April couldn't bear the thought of her family going through such hardships. She truly believed that her childhood problems were behind her. It had a significant impact on her health. By 2016, April had had enough of Mike's lies and filed for divorce. But, before she could get away from her problems, her oldest son, Madison, added to them. Madison was diagnosed with ADHD, and his doctor prescribed him Adderall-like medications. The problem with such medications is that they can become quite addictive. One should be extremely cautious about what they consume. And, just as she had predicted, he became addicted to it, along with marijuana. April was extremely concerned about her child's future. While she was adamant that Madison stop using marijuana, the teen couldn't care less. Madison's addiction was getting worse by the day. Mike wasn't home most of the time because he worked 24-hour shifts in the fire department. Madison took advantage of the situation by throwing parties at his home. It included marijuana, drugs, and copious amounts of alcohol. Mike had no idea his son threw parties, let alone parties involving drugs. Mike once returned home from work to find his house thrashed. There were bottles, joints, and paraphernalia all over the place. Mike was enraged by his son's actions, so he yelled at him, handcuffed him, and called the cops. When the officers saw the state of the house, they charged Madison with underage drinking and drug use. Due to the fact that it was the weekend and Madison was a minor, the officer asked Mike to drive to the station, sign the junior warrant, and bring Madison to court on Monday. Mike and April had been getting along for a long time, and they were eager to teach Madison a lesson. They thought he needed to learn from his mistakes and accept responsibility for his actions. 911 received a call from Mike's neighbor about 11 minutes after the police had left. Madison dashed to his neighbor's house, handcuffed. He informed them that his mother's life was in jeopardy. Madison claims that his parents went inside the room and began arguing. Things became out of hand, and his mother began yelling for help. When Madison entered the room, he discovered Mike choking April and pointing a gun at her. When Madison noticed this, she ran to a neighbor for assistance. When the officers returned to Mike's house, they discovered a bloody scene. Mike and April were both laying in a pool of blood. Mike's feet were near a semi-automatic gun. April died in the hospital, while Mike died at the crime scene. When the cops interrogated Madison about the incident, he repeated what he told the neighbor. The police, however, did not believe him because they suspected Madison. The police theory was simple: Madison was angry with his parents and killed them before they could take him to court. The officers also had a number of pieces of evidence to back up their theory. Madison told the officers that he kicked the door down during a fight between his parents. There were no signs of forced entry, however. 2. Mike was a right-handed person. However, the wound shot was in the left back of his head. It would have been difficult for him to commit suicide by twisting his hand at an unnatural angle. 3. Madison didn't appear sad or concerned. He exuded an unsettling calm that heightened the officer's suspicions. He appeared to be more concerned with his school's homecoming than with his parents' deaths. 4. Madison became extremely agitated if he was unable to obtain Adderall or marijuana. So when his parents forbade him from using them, he crossed the line. The police needed evidence to charge Madison, not just speculation. So they ran tests to see if Madison was the murderer. First, they searched Madison for gunpowder residue. While his report was negative, police speculated that the gun used did not leave deposits. The officers realized Madison was handcuffed at the time of the crime. While he couldn't have shot the gun with those cuffs, they did notice the key to the cuffs next to him. Madison could have quickly unlocked himself, murdered his parents, and reapplied the cuffs. Furthermore, both Mike and April's deaths were ruled homicides by the autopsy report. Madison was the primary suspect, so police detained him under the guise of house party charges. Madison was charged with the murders of April and Mike Holton after a preliminary review of all of the evidence. Madison was deemed dangerous by the judge due to her severe emotional issues. As a result, he set his bail at $1 million. While Mike's family suspected Madison of the crime, April's family was supportive of him. They did everything in their power to get Madison out of jail. Madison's bail was reduced to $300,000 by April's family in 2017, and his uncle posted his bail. His trial was scheduled to start in October 2018. Mike and April's families conducted their own investigations into their deaths. And the more these families learned, the more they questioned Madison's involvement in the crime. 1. Who handcuffs children as a form of punishment? Does it reflect Mike's mental state? 2. Madison's shirt had very little blood on it. It would have been difficult for him to free himself, murder his parents, clean himself up, conceal evidence, put the cuffs on, and run to the neighbor in 10 minutes. 3. According to the autopsy report, Mike had multiple substances in his system. These drugs would have impaired his ability to think and tolerate things. As a result, he could have attacked April. 4. Mike and April were both bruised and lacerated, and Mike's DNA was discovered in April's fingernails. They appeared to be fighting each other. 5. A friend of Mike's came forward and told the families how devastated Mike was following the divorce. So perhaps a debate took place on this subject. 6. Mike admitted in his journal to having suicidal thoughts following his divorce. Madison requested a polygraph test several times. However, he was actively denied. What was the reason for this? Madison was a stunned and traumatized adolescent who had no idea what to say or how to react. That doesn't make him a murderer. After learning about all of these details, the prosecution offered Madison several plea bargains, which he turned down. The prosecution dropped all charges against Madison and released him prior to his trial, citing insufficient evidence. However, they also stated that if additional evidence was discovered, the case would be reopened. What are your thoughts on the Mike Holton's case? I really appreciate your input. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Be a part of the Chris Crime Diaries family and hit the subscribe button now.